If it's January in Detroit, that means the North American International Auto Show takes center stage. So what should we expect this year from Michigan's largest industry? We'll put that question to auto expert John McElroy. But first, Antoine Garibaldi, the president of the University of Detroit Mercy, tells us how his institution is making a big footprint in one Detroit neighborhood. It's Sunday, January the 22nd. I'm Chuck Stokes, and this is Spotlight on the News from the North American International Auto Show. And my guest today on Spotlight is no stranger to this program and certainly no stranger to this city, Antoine Garibaldi. He is president of the University of Detroit Mercy. Welcome back.
Thank you very much for having me.
Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you also.
All right, I know you've got some new news that you want to unveil. We'll get to that in a minute. Before we look ahead, let's look back a little bit. Bring us up to date. Neighborhood development, Livernois, McNichols area. You announced not terribly long ago, all the things that you're trying to do there. How's that coming along?
It's coming along really well. A year and a half ago, we announced the establishment of Live 6 Alliance, the Livernois McNichols Neighborhood Economic Development Organization primarily. And while I serve as chair, we have other interested partners and very excellent partners in the Kresge Foundation and also the City of Detroit, particularly Detroit Economic Growth Corporation. But we're really beginning to move on a lot of activities which we had begun before, such as a lot of streetscape activities, heavy focus on business attraction and retention. Key aspect of it is also neighborhood stabilization and then also safety and security. So we're expanding on all of those. But I think one of the key points about it is that we have a community advisory committee of about 25 individuals.
Okay.
And they represent a variety
of
work in that community. Who live and work in that community, some of whom are a part of some of the neighborhoods surrounding the campus. And they've been very, very active working along with us. We have a new co-interim director that will be announced very, very soon, and then also Lauren Hood, who has been working along with the neighborhood as well. And so we're really ramping up our staffing so that we can begin to do even more in 2017.
Yeah, and that's so important because as we look out the window here, the backdrop of the Campus Martius downtown area, people are always saying, yeah, we know what's going on in downtown. We know what's happening in Midtown. A lot of development, a lot of economic input there. But it's about neighborhoods. And this is a prime example that development isn't just in downtown and Midtown. It's also happening in a core neighborhood in Northwest Detroit.
That's right. And in conjunction with Live 6 Alliance, we're working with the Fitzgerald Project that many people have talked about. The city is the lead in that. With a $4 million grant from the John and James L. Knight Foundation. And that activity, we're one of 4 cities that received that grant. So the university, Marygrove, and also the city will be working to not only eliminate some of the vacant homes that are in that neighborhood, but also begin to create some green space that will allow for some bike paths, for some walking paths, for some urban gardens. And that's going to make a really big change to the west of the campus.
Have you been pleased as the leader of all this with the reception that you've received both from employers and employees as well as businesses in that area for the leadership position that Detroit Mercy is taking?
Well, I'm a little humble when it comes to that because it really has been a team effort on the part of a lot of people. And when I talk about the city, the Kresge Foundation, we could have never done any of the things that we began partnership 5.5 years ago. They provided the assistance for us financially to be able to bring U3 advisors on from Philadelphia to work with the residents, with the university. And it was a slow process, but over that period of time, things are really beginning to happen. And we know that the university, for example, makes an economic impact of more than $325 million to the regional economy just by the existence of our 3 campuses in the city. But whenever people see things that are beginning to flourish, everybody wants to be a partner in that. So I think we're going to see a lot more, and we'd love to see much more business attraction along Livernois and particularly along McNichols.
Yeah, and the good thing is that you have such a long and illustrious list of alumni that's spread out throughout the world, that when they hear about these type of things, oftentimes that makes sort of for that the expatriates kind of coming back and saying, what can I do to help the place that helped me get the education so I can now do the things that I'm doing across the world?
That's true, and I've been really pleased with the fact that our alumni who graduated 20 years ago, 10 years ago, who have come back and who have been actively involved in some of this Renaissance type of activity, but also individuals who graduated 40 and 50 years ago who have lived away from the university and from the city for a long time. They've come back to look and see how they might also be a part of this revitalization that's going on, and they're happy that the university is a major partner in it.
All right, clearly open for business. We're going to take a little break. When we come back, I want to talk about some new announcements that you have coming up dealing with health sciences. We'll be right back with the president of Detroit Mercy. Don't go away. President Garibaldi, health sciences, we're always hearing about how important that is in terms of the future of this country, but you're going to be taking some big expansion steps there.
Right. 6 months ago, we decided that it was very important for us to add some new laboratories, some new classroom space, and essentially build another building in conjunction with our existing College of Health Professions. So we have just completed a new annex to our College of Health Professions that will allow us to increase the numbers of students in our physician assistance program, our nursing programs, a number of other related health sciences programs, because there's such a great demand, certainly for individuals who are backgrounds in the health professionals. But we want to really take the opportunity to be able to bring in more students, particularly for the physician assistant program. We have to have it approved, obviously, by the accrediting body, but we get over 550 applications for only 25 slots that we can fill. So we want to be able to really expand that, and this is going to be great for our faculty, not just in terms of teaching, but also in terms of research. Well, this is a $3 million investment. It is one of the newest buildings around since our creation of the Student Fitness Center a few years ago, and that was the first freestanding building in 42 years there. But this is a very, very important building because of the fact that we have so many students in the sciences, for example, and engineering, and there's a great deal of collaborations between a College of Health Professions and engineering, and even architecture, as we begin to look at new ways of doing things, particularly in the health profession. And so our students have been leaders in this particular field, and certainly our alumni from both Mercy College as well as University of Detroit and University of Detroit Mercy. So it's going to give us the opportunity to do a lot more things on the McNichols campus with these undergraduate and graduate students. So we're looking forward to students beginning to enjoy that new building within a matter of a couple of weeks.
You also have the Rebuild Detroit, you've called it, trying to train young people into the biosciences. How's that progressing? That's
going very well. This is our third year. We are one of 10 groups of institutions that receive these major grants. It's a $22 million grant that we are the lead institution along with Wayne State and also Marygrove College. But the goal here is to increase the numbers of students, particularly from minorities and also students who have special needs and other special backgrounds, women as well, in the biomedical science. There's such a shortage of that the National Institutes of Health said we need to create some programs around the country. So we are one of the 10 fortunate groups of institutions that received that grant 3 years ago, and we're building on that, and hopefully that grant, which is a 5-year grant, will be renewed in a matter of a couple of years.
We just had the world press here for the North American International Auto Show, so all eyes of the world were on us and what we're doing in terms of auto engineering. That's also a curriculum curriculum that you've been involved with at the university.
That's right, Chuck. And the Center for Automotive Systems Engineering Education was completed just about 6 months ago as well. We had the dedication in September of 2016. That gives our students in the fields of engineering in particular the opportunity to work on the future automotive and transportation systems right there in a laboratory that has all state-of-the-art equipment, and it gives students the opportunity to take some of those skills to the various employers, not just the big three, but also many of the suppliers that are located here in Detroit, as well as in other places.
You have served in a leadership role, not just here in this city, but across the nation, whether it's the South and your roots in New Orleans, or when you're over in Erie, Pennsylvania, at Howard University in Washington, D.C. So you know a lot about education, a lot of contacts, as well as government. As we transition from the Obama administration to the Trump administration, what do you hope the new president does in terms of education, especially higher education, and particularly as it relates to people of color, which is something that's been a passion of yours?
Sure. Well, one of the key things I hope that happens is that there's a continuation of financial aid, not just for certain students, but really for all students. 1/3 of our student body, our freshman classes, which have been increasing each of the last 3 years, are students who are the first in their families to go to college. Many of those students come from low-income families. There is no way that they can afford a public or a private education if they do not receive some of that federal aid. Sure, the students will make some contributions themselves, but I think continuing to educate students beyond the high school level, whether it's a 2-year education or 4-year education, is extremely important. Our state, for example, has probably 18% of our citizenry between the ages of 25 and 64 who have a bachelor's degree. That's a very, very small number. We have changed from a mechanized and a manufacturing industry into some things that are more high tech. So our students need that ability, and they are going to really make the state the kind of state that we want it to be in terms of being a productive one.
And continue to be a state that is a leader in education. We have some of the greatest higher education institutes in the world right here, but you're absolutely right. When you look at some of the statistics, people will say Michigan has been slipping.
That's right. And you mentioned about students of color. Well, the whole population of the country is shifting to more non-white population. This is not something that somebody thought of last month. I mean, This was predicted in 2000, by two great researchers from the Educational Testing Service. So we know that, and we know more students in both public and private institutions will need to have that first-rate education, but many of those students don't have the financial resources in order to make that happen. So, as I like to think about it, I hope to be retired in sometime, but I want to make sure that there's some young people who are there to make sure that my Social Security is well taken care of.
Very good. Mr. President, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure sitting down and talking with you.
Thanks.
And best of luck with all the things you're doing at Detroit Mercy.
Thanks so much.
And we'll be back with more guests. Don't go back. And welcome back to Spotlight here at theCUBE. Joining me now, John McElroy of Autoline Detroit and WWJ, and a man who knows everything you ever wanted to know about automobiles and things that are on 4 wheels. John, welcome back.
Thanks so much, Chuck.
It's so good seeing you. All right, last day of the show. People still have time to get in the door and see it if they haven't been there. What to you are the stars of this show?
It's hard to say what are the stars, but there's a lot of good stuff to look at. If you look at some of the domestic stuff, Chevrolet has the new Traverse. Chrysler's got this really incredible concept car that they're calling the Portal. It's all about this connected and autonomous stuff.
Right.
Ford showing off a refresh version of the F-150. But some of the other fun ones I think to look at are this electric van that Volkswagen showing off. It looks like the old Volkswagen vans from years ago. Audi's got a Q8. That's one of their SUVs. It shows how they're changing their styling. Same with Infiniti. They've got a crossover called the QX50. So there is a lot. Oh, heck, can't forget to mention the all-new Toyota Camry.
That's right.
And the Honda minivan, the Odyssey. So there's a lot of new product on the floor.
A lot of eye candy out there.
There is.
2015, auto industry had record sales. How are you feeling now about the auto industry? Still on that riding high, or anything that you say, look out, this may be coming around the corner?
Hard to say, Chuck, but you're right. 2015 was a record. 2016 broke that record.
Yep.
I think we'll be very close to that this year. And people are saying, oh, the growth is slowing down. I think slowing down at an all-time record rate is not half bad.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. Now, we've heard a lot of talk, Trump administration coming in. He certainly has been sending messages to the various automakers. What are you to make of this? Do you think this is going to be a good relationship between the auto industry and this new administration, or is this like, watch out, folks?
I should be asking you the question, Chuck.
We don't know.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows, because Trump says some of the most outrageous things.
Sure.
He contradicts himself a lot all the time. I'm waiting to wait and see what he does. I've given up trying to listen to what he says.
Right, sure.
I
Giving up
watch.
trying to read the tea leaves.
But I'll tell you what, I ran into an executive on the floor very close to Trump. So close, in fact, he was invited to Donald Trump's New Year's Eve party at Mar-a-Lago. And I asked him, what's going to happen, especially with Mexico? And he said, look, John, there are other adults in the room. They will not let him do something stupid. So I hope that's the case, but Chuck, I have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a touch and feel situation for a while, and then we'll have to see how it shakes out. Let's take them kind of one at a time. The auto manufacturers, your assessment of where they are at this stage of the game.
GM and Ford, as strong as they've ever been. Really impressed with what they're doing. I think the future looks bright for them. FCA, Fiat Chrysler, a little bit more of a question mark, but I think they're doing a lot of the right things. Their problem is they still have a lot of debt. They still are well underfunded on their pension. If they can get those things fixed in the next 2 years, they'll be good to go. But, you know, Sergio Marchionne, the chief guy there, keeps saying, I got to merge with somebody.
Right.
So I think there's going to be another merger out there sometime.
He's looking for a marriage somewhere.
Yeah.
VW still having some PR problems without a doubt, and
that's
some
to
legal
put it
problems,
politely.
and some legal problems as well. Can they dig out of this hole? Do you think they will dig out of this?
They can dig out. They're big enough. They have deep enough pockets. But you know, I don't think we've heard the end of it. You know, this guy that just got arrested, Oliver Schmidt. You know, he used to work in Auburn Hills.
I remember
that. Means a lot of the cover-up that Volkswagen engaged in over this diesel emissions scandal, that was done up in Auburn Hills. I mean, there's a real local angle to this now.
We'll be right back with John McElroy. Don't go away. And welcome back to Spotlight. All right, suppliers. Are they happy right now? Or is this a good relationship between manufacturers and suppliers, or still feeling as though you're squeezing us too much?
Look, there's always going to be that. There's always going to be tension between the car companies and the suppliers. But there's a lot of collaboration going on, especially early collaboration, early on in the design process. And that's where you can really save some money and get new technology in a car. I think suppliers going into the end of last year were a little bit pessimistic. I think coming out now, they're more optimistic. Look, like them or not, Trump's talking about a lot of pro-business policies, cutting taxes. This big stimulus program he's talking about could be good for business. And as a result, I'm starting to perceive, at least, that suppliers are a lot happier looking forward to the year.
Consumers, is this a good time for consumers to buy a car, to buy a truck, to buy anything that's on four wheels?
It's awfully good, Chuck. You know, we're probably going to see another interest rate raise. I don't think that's going to hurt too much, but you know, when you raise rates, you're going to take some people out of the new car market. But nonetheless, I think we're headed for a good year, and I think it's a great time, actually, for consumers to buy cars. Look in the Sunday papers at some of the lease rates. I can't believe some of the prices, how cheap these things are going for.
Self-driving cars, the autonomous cars, getting a lot of attention.
My guess is it'll take most of those people about 5 to 10 minutes in an autonomous car to see how well these things can actually work to change their minds. And you're right, seniors especially, those who have got children like myself and my father saying,
Right.
hey Dad, hand
me.
over the car keys,
Right.
you're past your driving prime. He doesn't want to give it up. But if we could give him a car that was all his own, that could drive itself safely, I think he'd go for it.
Technology has always been a part of the auto industry, but now these little mobile devices that we carry on our hip, that's becoming a whole nother component to all of this. And these relationships between the automakers and those who are involved in the various forms of technology that everybody seems to love, and we love or hate, whichever relationship you want to say, we can't live without it now.
No, that's exactly right. And the technology in phones changes much more quickly than it does in cars. And so I don't know anybody who uses the navigation system in their car as much as they use it on their phone, because it's so much easier to use. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that, of a lot of more technology going into your phone. Now we just want it to pair up with the car, and instead of having to look at a little screen on the phone, I want it on the dashboard.
What concerns you as you look down the line in terms of the auto industry?
There's a real question now as more and more sharing happens, the Ubers and the Lyft kind of a thing. What they tell me is for every car that gets shared, 10 to 15 other cars can come off the road. And so as you look at more and more Uber drivers and Lyft drivers becoming available, just multiply that by 10 or 15 and there could be a lot fewer cars in the future. That's one argument. The other argument is, no, if you're going to make all this mobility cheaper and available to everyone, more people are going to use it and we're going to need more cars. So that's the big uncertainty now. Are we going to need fewer cars in the future, just as many as now, or even more?
What do you see as the future of electric cars? A few years ago when we were doing interviews, that was all of the rage. Some of that seems to have dampered off, but yet we still got folks out there saying, we're making them. Tesla is selling more cars than they were before. What do you think?
Tesla's making not only more cars, they make a pretty good car. They're losing a lot of money. That's the real key now. Can you sell and build and sell electric cars and make money at it? Because so far, no one's been able to do it. Now, having said that, the battery costs are coming down and coming down fast. And so some think, that around the year 2022, we're going to see the real takeoff point for electric cars. But, for example, that Chrysler Portal concept car at the show I talked about earlier on, that's got a bunch of batteries in it. It has $20,000 worth of batteries in it. I mean, they got to do something about the cost on that before we all go out and buy one and they can make money.
All right, very good. Well, the sun's coming out, so I think that means good things. That's maybe Mother Nature's way of saying auto industry is bright and the future is bright. John, thanks so much for coming in. It's always a pleasure sitting down and talking with you, giving us this yearly update on this auto show and